English made easy. Hey guys! Bored of those vocab lists? Me too. At 1 Degree North Companion, we're turning wordly wise into an adventure to make learning actually interesting. Let's jump in. Book 3. Lesson 10.
You ever stop and think about how one invention, just a simple box that goes up and down, totally changed, completely reshaped our world? It's the reason we could start building upwards, reaching for the sky, instead of just spreading out. Well, today, we're going to get into the incredible story of the elevator. It's an invention that literally lifted us all to a whole new level. All right, let's get into it. So, to really get why the elevator was such a game changer, you got to go back in time. Let's picture a world without them. Think about a city, say, in the middle of the 1800s. Yeah, they were crowded, they were sprawling, but you know what? They were flat. See, before elevators, everything was built on a human scale. And the reason for that? It's so simple. Stairs. Think about it. Most people just weren't going to climb more than 5 flights of stairs. And that one simple fact put this hard cap, the ceiling, on how ambitious our cities could be. Everything, life, business, you name it, it all happened just a few floors off the ground. But there was always one exception, right? The one thing you'd see poking up through that flat skyline, the cathedral. And we're not talking about just any church. This was a massive, super important structure. It was this huge statement of faith, of engineering, a project that took, centuries to build? It reached heights no other building even dreamed of. It was like all of humanity's desire to go higher, but carved out of stone. So here's the bottom line. The real thing holding us back from building taller cities, it wasn't a lack of cool ideas or not having the right materials. Nope. It was the simple physical limit of the human body. We were literally stuck on the ground thanks to our own 2 feet. Okay, so while faith was reaching for the heavens with these cathedrals, something else was taking over down on the ground: industry. And in all those new factories and warehouses of the steam age, a totally new problem popped up. How in the world do you move tons and tons of stuff straight up? Right in the middle of these industrial cities, machines were already lifting heavy freight. Just goods being moved from one place to another. And these big, powerful steam-powered hoists, they were absolutely essential for business. But, and this is a big but, they were built for things like boxes and barrels. Definitely not for people. So yeah, these machines could absolutely convey materials, just carry them from point A to point B. But the problem was they were famous for being unsafe, like really unsafe. The ropes, the chains, they could snap. And they did. All the time, with no warning. Safety was the one thing that was just missing. And this is what everyone was asking, right? If we have the power to lift tons of freight, why can't a person just hop on the platform? The answer was simple, and honestly, terrifying. One snapped rope, and it was over. It was a death sentence. And this is where our hero steps onto the stage, a guy named Elisha Otis. He was an inventor, and he was so sure he'd solve this problem that he decided to prove it. And let me tell you, he chose the most dramatic way you can possibly imagine. Okay, set the scene. It's 1853. We're at the New York Crystal Palace exhibition. Picture this. Elisha Otis is standing on this plain wooden platform, and it's been lifted way up high over a crowd of people. And you can bet they're nervous. There's no cage, no walls, nothing. He is literally betting his entire reputation and his life on this one single, incredibly bold demonstration. And then it happens. The thing nobody can believe. On his signal, a guy with an axe swings and just cuts the only thing holding him up. This thick steel cable, basically a super strong rope made of metal. You can just imagine the sound as those strands snap. The crowd just gasps. They're horrified. But the platform doesn't crash down. It falls maybe a few inches and then thwump. It just jerks to a dead stop. So what was the secret? It was this simple, thin metal rod. The second the tension on that cable was gone, this strong little rod shot outwards and locked itself into the guide rails on the sides. It completely stopped the fall. It saved his life. This brings up a really neat connection between 2 words. See, Elisha Otis had to devise a solution. He had to come up with it, to invent it. And what came out of that act of inventing? His brilliant device. The action, the verb, leads to the thing, the noun. He had just invented the safety elevator. And this is the moment everything changed. After that brake kicked in, Otis just calmly looks down at this stunned crowd and says, "All safe, gentlemen." I mean, wow. With just 3 words, he wasn't just selling an invention anymore. He was selling trust. He was selling the entire future of the city as we know it. So Otis's big show, it did way more than just create a new product. It kicked off a revolution. Because now that safety wasn't an issue, the race to the sky was officially on. All of a sudden, architects started designing buildings in a whole new way, with a new core, the elevator shaft. Just think of it like a long, open tunnel, going straight up and down, kind of like a mine shaft. This thing became the new spine, the vertical highway for a whole new type of building. And these brand new, super tall buildings, they became more than just buildings. They became landmarks. Now, a landmark isn't just, a building you use to find your way around. The word also means a really important, game-changing moment in history. And the invention of the safe elevator, well, that was a landmark event that literally created the modern skyline. All right, so let's wrap this all up. What does this whole story from like 170 years ago have to do with us today? Every single time we step into an elevator. Well, it represents a huge shift in our method, the way we do things. The old way of building tall, think back to those cathedrals, needed these insanely thick stone walls at the bottom just to hold up all that weight. But the new method, a light steel frame with an elevator shaft running right through the middle. That allowed for buildings that were graceful, open, and just unbelievably tall. And this invention didn't stop at architecture. It changed society itself. Think about this. It took those unwanted, dusty attic spaces and turned them into the most expensive real estate around, the luxurious penthouse. It completely flipped the script on property values. So really, the next time you get in an elevator, just remember you're not just riding in a little box. You're stepping inside a piece of revolutionary tech that totally re-engineered our cities and gave us access to the sky. And that brings us all the way back to that really cool word, convey. We saw how it means to physically move stuff, right? But it's got this other really powerful meaning, to communicate an idea or a feeling, to make it known. Alicia Otis conveyed his great idea with a stunt that could have killed him. So that leaves us with one last thought for you. How are you going to convey your ideas, your ambitions to the world?
Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. I'll see you in the next one.